Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Behind the Music. We're going to be doing a discussion of the King's Landing, or Ode to King's Landing track that I did. So I was heavily inspired by that last episode of the Game of Thrones series, Season 8. I'm not going to give any spoilers as to what happened, but essentially there's like an ode to King's Landing that I've created that is based on the ending to that episode and the emotion that you see in that scene at the end. Now, I know that a lot of people aren't a huge fan of Game of Thrones, and not everybody is a fan, especially of the last season or the last couple of seasons. We're not really going to worry about any of that for this. This is mostly just me talking about the track itself and how I came up with it, where the ideas came from, and where the permutations of those ideas came from, because there's different permutations as well. So first, we're going to talk about the track as an overall piece. It starts off just as a soft piano track, leads into a little bit more piano flowing with melody, and then we bring in the piano bass, and then we have a key change into a piano with no melody and a solo cello melody. After that, we switch back to piano with melody, still in the new key, and then we have a silence block. But in the silence block, I did actually put something there. It's actually the synthesizer starts playing, and the synthesizer is just playing a held note, a pedal note, and then the solo cello plays by itself, and that's representing the emptiness of that scene, or that emotion of that scene that that's in the Game of Thrones episode. And then the last section is just sort of a rehashing of what we'd have already heard, with the solo cello playing just with the accompaniment and no bass, and then just sort of ending the piece like that. So in order to get to that point, what we did is we started with this opening, which we'll discuss why it's broken up like this. So the first thing you'll notice is that there's this breakup. And why is it broken up? Because there's two different rhythms happening. We start off with just an eighth note rhythm, da 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 da, right? That's all eighth notes straight across. Okay, and then in the next one, we actually break at the third beat. So bum 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 bum, and that holds out. And we do that twice. Okay, but this second one, as you can hear, it actually didn't do a held note because I made a mistake. So actually what I ended up doing is changing this in post, but we can change it here, and we can hear what I wanted to show you is different permutations of these notes. So I knew what chords I wanted. I knew what chords I wanted before I started this, because I knew what sound I was going for. I was going for a somber, delicate sound, and that's... right? So that's E minor to D major, and it's just that over and over again with a couple of different changes to the keys. When we do the ending to the blocks, we do this is a half cadence, and then this is a another half cadence as well, and then this one is I believe a perfect cadence, and then I can't remember exactly which ones are which, but I'm not a music theory expert by any means. I understand most of the cadences, but I'm not an expert, so forgive me if I'm getting that incorrectly. But essentially, what we have now that I've changed this, when I've changed this rhythm, it's actually going to change the notes that it plays. So listen to that now. Before. So it did something different there. I went, instead of... it went... or... So it went lower, and that's kind of weird that it did that, but you're going to get permutations like this over and over again. So you can actually recreate the clips by just right-clicking on a clip and clicking Recreate. And it's going to keep my rhythm. Whatever rhythm I've set for it, it's going to keep using that. So then we get into the next section, and the next section is just the rhythm is just eighth notes all the way across, and then the piano is doing the low momentum with a low complexity, a very low complexity, and we're at the middle range dynamics with the high, not the very high melody. So. So again, there's multiple permutations that we can come up with for this. If we recreate this clip, for instance, again. Sure, I can work with that. So we're doing a key change here, and the key change is really simple. First, we're going from E. Okay, so we start with E, E minor, D major, E minor, back to D major, then C major, then D major, and then A minor, which is, and then F major, which is the 5 of the perfect fifth of the next key. So then B minor, and then we go to A flat. So we're repeating the pattern. So this pattern of is going to get repeated now here. So we're going to get So if you're wondering how to get from E minor to B flat minor, it's really just pretty simple. So we just go from E minor, D major, E minor, D major, C major, which is the 6th of the chord. This is the 6th of E minor. Okay, and then we do D major again, which is the 7, and then we do A minor. And then the 5th, which the 5th of the next key, which is actually the 2. So this is the major 2, major 2nd of E minor. So, and the 5th. So this is 2/5 for anyone into music theory. So that, and then B flat minor. So the reason I chose cello, I think, is probably obvious. I play the cello now, and I'm excited about cello, and I like using solo cello stuff. And also, solo cello just works really well with a piano track. And this particular style of theme that we're going for, this dark, somber theme, a cello also plays out really well. And it also accents, it highlights that key change. So that key change going into the solo cello line. So let's talk about this section here a little bit. This section is actually incorrect. So there's actually an error here where this was not playing the correct notes. So I actually recreated the clip. And then what I wanted it to do, all I wanted it to do was play one note. So in the instrument that I'm using, which is this case Zebra synthesizer, it's a pad that I created, and essentially there's a but what I really wanted was just a simple pedal note. So I wanted that A sharp pedal note on the low setting, that A sharp, which is essentially B flat, but we just call it A sharp here. And we're doing the same thing here. And then here we just get rid of this. This is what Orb created for me when I had it recreate stuff. So now we have this. Okay, let's back up a second. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on here with the piano. So if we go to just this piano track, so there's some inconsistencies in the dynamic range here, which I ended up fixing in post-edit. But one of the other things is that I forgot to do some stuff here. So this should actually be a held note, just like before we were doing that held note like this. I don't really like that. No thanks. Okay, I'll take that. And this should also be doing the same thing. So I've actually split this chord up. And the reason I split this chord up, and actually it is, says it's doing that rhythm. But it's not actually. So this is an error I noticed with this. So what I did was ended up recreating it in post, but you can also do it in Orb Composer where you have the accompaniment just play a held note like that on that bar. So so what's happening is, so let me back up to before I made that change. So let's just back up to this. So this rhythm here, da 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 da, it's supposed to be a held note here on this one. But as you can hear, it's not holding the note. And the reason it's not holding the note is because I split the chord into two parts. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to put a break in the melodic line. I wanted to break for 2 beats before bringing the melodic line back. Now what happened is that also when you do that, when you split it up, the rhythm that you've created will actually reset. So it'll play 2 bars and then it'll go back and play those first 2 bars again. So what you need to do is actually create this like this, create a second line like that, and then have it play just one held note. So we will just do one long held note there. And so let's do. And of course you want to make sure the dynamics match, so go back to piano for that. So what I really want there is a C sharp. I want this note. Okay, so that's the whole ending. So what I'm going to do is change this to a C sharp chord, or D flat major, sure. Okay, so I'm going to change this to a D flat major chord because I want it to hold a D flat. I'm going to change the roll to bass because it'll play the bass note then, and then we should get a C sharp. So you see there's a lot of quirks with Orb Composer because, and the reason it's doing this I think is mainly because I'm attached to my DAW, so it's actually playing through the DAW, and there may be some issues with it cutting out notes or whatever, but I'm getting an idea of what I'm hearing here. And so what I ended up doing was, once I settled on everything, I decided, okay, this is how I want to end the track. I want it to be just a nice slow out like this. I went ahead and exported all the MIDI, and then we went to DAW. So let's go ahead and transfer over to DAW. This is the imported MIDI with some changes that I made. I didn't make that many changes. I made some very minor changes, most of which were on the cello line as far as the melody goes. So I did a lot of, as you can see, CC, MIDI CC there, and that just creates a bit more dynamic. So one thing about the particular, and I'm actually in the wrong key, and the reason for that I will just disregard for the moment. What I ended up doing was going into the MIDI and editing the notes because I wanted there to be portamento. And the way to add portamento for this particular patch that I'm using from LASS is to lower the velocity down to near 0. So in this case you have this. So right there is your portamento up, and I wanted to do that on a couple of different spots, and then we have that here as well. I'm happy with the overall result. If you have any questions about how I did this and how I created the track, how you can go from beginning to end with a track, like I showed you here with the Orb Composer and then going into DAW, or if you have any questions about Orb Composer specifically, how you can stay in Orb Composer and get these results, I can talk about some of that, but ask your questions down below in the comments. I'll be happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you if you're curious about how I come up with some of these ideas and how I let these ideas develop and worked with them. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this behind the music for the Ode to King's Landing, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, give us a like. And if you want to get your copy of Orb Composer, click the Buy Now button on the screen. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And you can also join our Discord community by clicking the link in the description. Thanks for watching.